welcome to another Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is BryanCPSteele, and I will be your nerd today, and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shows. Hello, everyone. How do you do? On this fine December evening, afternoon, or maybe not even December, depending on when you watch this. But when I'm recording this, it is a December afternoon, and this will come out December right around lunchtime. And I hope that it is found well and that you all enjoy this material. So, one of the things that you will note if you're a longtime subscriber, or if you have watched at least some of my videos, I generally try to start each video with the Week in Bryan, which is just kind of checking up and letting you know how I'm doing as a human being on this wonderful spinning rock that we call Earth. What I am going to change up for this one, because I do think that this video is probably going to get used outside of my subscriber base, is I'm going to put the Week in Bryan after the meat of the episode itself. So we're just going to go ahead and cut to the episode. So that way, if you are here, hopefully you're here to see me, listen to my dulcet tones, and stick around as a subscriber and tell all your friends about how amazing this channel is. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you're just here to get the material. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and just talk about the thumbnail that you clicked on, so that way I don't discourage you from sticking around. However, please, it would be great if you stuck around all the way till the end material, because, that's why we record it. It's for people to see it. Otherwise, why would we record it? Because we probably wouldn't. Never mind. Today's episode is on the upcoming official ThunderCats Roleplaying Game, as produced by Lynn Vander Studios and licensed by Dynamite Comics. So this is the real deal. This is the thing. This is the big deal. And the reason why I'm talking to you about it is because I am one of the 3 lead designers that designed and wrote the book. I know, yay! I can hear all the applause, and you throwing roses at your screen, which is actually super funny if you were like sitting somewhere watching this on your phone, throwing a rose at your phone. But either way, yes, this is the reason why I'm making such a big deal of this, and why you get to get a preview basically of what's going to be in the book, is because I was one of the people who designed it, who put it together. And a little bit of history here before we get into the book itself. The reason why this is so important and awesome to me, one, I love the franchise. I love the franchise. I love the fact that it is tenuously connected to another one of my favorite cartoon franchises, the Silverhawks. And I sincerely hope that this does amazingly well, and eventually someone lets me make a Silverhawks game. But to give you a little bit of background information, I want to say about 12 or 13 years ago, I was between big gigs, and I was like, I got this creative bug in my head. I've got this idea, and I started putting, game rules into notebooks and on my computers and all this sort of thing. Things that if I were to have the availability to create something with, I would, and they started taking shape. I did a Masters of the Universe one, still waiting for that. I did some Silverhawk stuff, and I did some ThunderCats stuff. Because at that time, I took like a month out of my life and put together 6 or 7 pretty in-depth business pitches to licensors to try and get a magic number that I could crowdfund to lease out the license and create an official role-playing game for these licenses. I heard back from a few. Some people were very cut and dry. No, we don't do unsolicited game pitching. Okay, fair enough. I got one that was actually a personalized letter. The one from the Masters of the Universe. I got a personalized letter that basically said that the license is currently held by another gaming company. I found that out later who that was. But that I should contact them. I did. They were not interested. But regardless, all this being said, and all the, kind of the roundaboutness is, I had reached out to, at the time, it was not Dynamite. I think it may have just been Warner directly. I had reached out through my contacts at Warner because of working for Babylon 5 back in the day. I reached out and was like, hey, what would be a number to do, ThunderCats? This is what I would do. And I did get a response, and the response that I got was, we are interested in doing things with this property in the future. You're, in a nutshell, to paraphrase, I'm just one person and not a studio, and they were looking for a studio. And I totally understand. I was obviously I was mad at the time, but I understand now, having now more than a decade later worth of business experience, and understand how these licensing things work, and I get it. I didn't get it at the time, and I was kind of fussed up about it, but it was something that I definitely wanted to do, and I have been spouting ever since I started working on G.I. Joe and Transformers and Power Rangers. When we made those role-playing games, we designed that system. So people had always said, what would be some of your dream licenses to add to Essence 20, to add to these things. And one of the things I always used to say was ThunderCats. Not only because I love the world, but because it is that kind of party mentality, good versus evil, monsters are real. It's got everything already there. And it was always something that I was like, this begs for a role-playing game. Well, fast forward, again, decade plus, and I was playtesting a completely different game at the time. I was with a group of my friends, and my phone rang, and or it was either phone rang or text message. I think it was a text message, but it was Tommy Gofton from Lynn Vander Studios, one of my brothers from another mother. I love the guy to death, and he reached out and basically was like, "Hey, I've got business talks with the guys who have the ThunderCats license, and I'm thinking about making a role-playing game. Do you mind if I add your name to the pitch?" Not to be, not to humble myself or anything, but it's at this point in my career, I do have some stuff under my belt. I've got a couple of Origins awards. I've got an Emmy. I've worked with Hasbro, and so I understand. And it was just really nice. It was nice to be. It's always nice to be headhunted for something, but it was even cooler when one of your best friends reaches out to you and goes, "Hey, I know that you want to be on this. I want you to be on this, and I know that they're going to want you to be on this." And so I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely." And then I didn't hear anything about it. Heard nothing more about it. It was just, I was like, "Yeah, feel free, whatever." And it was just kind of radio silence for a little bit. But then, like a month later, maybe even 2 months later, again, I was doing something. I was at Christmas in July with my family. And my phone actually rings, and it's Tommy. It's a call from Toronto, and I'm like, oh well, I only know a fistful of people from Toronto, and they all work for the same. They're all in the same hub, so I'm like, all right, cool. I'll let me grab this, and it was Tommy basically saying, okay, the ink on the project is, the contract is drying, deadlines are pretty fierce. Devin and I want you on this team. Let's do this. Are you still available? I was like, well, if I wasn't, I would make myself available for this license. And so I said yes, and I came back to the campsite to see all my family. They obviously could tell I got good news because I'm skipping effectively into the campsite. I explained to them, the people who knew what that meant were over the moon. And what's funny is my mom. Gonna try not to cry. God, I can't. I'm such a sap. My mom is. I'm very close to my mother, and my mom has been with me through almost every step of this whole process. Even though she doesn't completely understand why we game and what the gaming is, she plays board games and stuff with her friends, and they play cards, and they play games. She understands like camaraderie and friendship, but like when it comes down to like role playing and things, it's a lot of it's that role playing thing. Back in the day it was the you're gonna go act like a vampire, which is awesome and cute and whatnot. But she's always been really, really supportive. She has always she's got 2 giant bookshelves of some of my earliest work. Some of those books are worth money now, but like she's got that back at my mom's house. You know, she still has like bookshelves dedicated to my early stuff, and it was nice to say, or when you tell her that, and she was obviously very happy. But she's like, so what is it? And I was like, it's ThunderCats. And she's like, oh my god, you used to watch that all the time. So she even remembered the cartoon. She remembered my attachment to the license. So this, you know, again, I'm giving you all this pretense, but it was like a dream. It was very much it was just like when I landed the Power Rangers Transformers thing. It was, this is something that, you know, younger me was doing with my toys, was doing with comic books, was doing with you know, my badly written middle school, high school stories. These were things I was already doing with these licenses, and now I get to literally do it like literally like it is my job. I get paid to leave my fingerprints and leave a footnote on this license, this property that I love so dearly. So obviously it became an absolute labor of love, and Devin and Tommy and I, we work together very well, which I need to shout out to Adam Petrovic. I think that's how to say his last name, and he's going to let me know if I butcher it. But Adam also helped a great deal with statting out a bunch of the creatures and stuff. I did a bunch, but he did the make a pun. He did the lion's share. He did a lot of the NPCs. I did a lot of creatures, but he did a ton of stuff with this book when it came to like statistics and making sure that our numbers matched up. I consider myself pretty damn good at stat blocks, but I was really impressed with a lot of the material he put together. But when it came down to like the organization of what we were putting in the book, that was Tommy, Devin, and I. Tommy did a lot of idea throwing. He's extremely imaginative, and understands some of the nuances of what it takes to make a cool rule. Devin did such a deep dive on the lore that it is, I consider myself pretty well versed in a lot of ThunderCats. Not all of it, I won't lie. There's definitely some aspects of it that I would have to look up myself. But Devin did an absolute just spiral to the bottom of things, and it was fun. It was great. It was interesting, and I love getting to see people learn to love a thing that I love. And I don't know if Devin was a massive or even really a fan of ThunderCats before coming into this project, but I know he is now. And getting to sit around and talk to him about the Great Migration, and you know, what is a cool term for the two diametrically opposed pyramids on Third Earth? You know, like the aspects of this book that were not just go watch the show. You know, there's more to it than that. You got to create the connectivity and create the things that make it more than just a two-dimensional sandbox. That it's more than that. It's a full world. It's lived in. It's got a time. It's got a chronology. And Devin, he blew me away. He blew me away with what he put together as far as the lore in this book. You know, when he did the vast majority of the like writing up the story arcs and the, you know, this is what happened and this is what happened and this is what happened. You know, I did a lot of the chunks of things, like you know, all right, here, you know, here's the list of all of our subclasses. I need to come up with the different rules and the things, and some of the stuff that, you know, Tommy may have put down that was a very you know, I want this subclass to do this, make it do this. And so that was what Devin and I would need to do, and sit down and make that all come together. And overall, I think it's a great product. I think it's a great book. It's I've seen some of the layout shots because we had access to all of the art that ThunderCats from, you know, cartoon screenshots, but also the years and years of comics. It's a pretty book. It's got a lot of really, really cool stuff in it. It's very well laid out. Hats off to Devin and Sandra. Sandra did the editing. Devin did a lot of the layout. It already, the manuscript looks great, and I cannot wait for you guys to see it and be able to show it off to you as it is. All that being said, I do want. I know I'm already like minute 15. And you're like, Bryan, get to the point. I do want to basically walk through not every aspect of the book, because that would be spoilers. But I do want to give kind of a rough brush what you can expect to find in this this amazing tome, and how you can use it, how you can put it together. But again, getting back to, before I get into the actually walking through the table of contents, the three of us plus Adam, I think we put together a hell of a book, and it works in conjunction with the D&D 2024, the D&D 2024 Player's Handbook, so it is completely compliant. That meaning that effectively all you need is the Player's Handbook and this book in order to run ThunderCats Adventures. It also means that if you have a open-minded dungeon master, that you could bring the ThunderCats book to the table and go, hey, is there any way that I could play is there any way I can play a Snarf in your D&D game? Because all of these rules mesh together in order to be played with together. So obviously we've tried to make it, every aspect of it should feel like a ThunderCats, episodical, or a campaign taking place on Third Earth or New Thundera, I guess, if you crank the timeline forward, which we have rules for, by the way. But it's also just a really good D&D book resource, because it's got, as I will go through and tell you what's in between these covers, that it actually also has just really cool stuff that you could bring to your D&D game. Maybe you don't want to run just a regular everyday tabaxi. You're like, you know what? Maybe you're a DM, you buy this book and you go, all right, in my world, there's lots of different kinds of tabaxi. We're not actually running in Third Earth, we're not actually running on a Thunderian game, but I want all my tabaxi to use the rules for Thunderians, because I want you to have different versions of cats that are not just all tabaxi. That's something you could do with this. Let's say you don't want to run a lizard folk character straight out of the monster manual, so instead you go, all right, well, let's play a reptilian mutant. There's rules for that in this. So again, it is obviously designed to be a ThunderCats book, and it's set deep in the ThunderCats lore and the setting, and almost all of the new rules and things that we put in there are taken as there's something from the show or the comics that referred to it, or you can look at it and go, oh, I know what he did here. That's what this is about. I'm very, very excited. So excited that I actually am going to be running a special event ThunderCats game as one of the industry special guests at GaryCon in the spring. I got one of my events is a ThunderCats game. So that may very well be the first time at a convention that anybody gets to play the ThunderCats role-playing game. I'm not sure, because it is until March, and Tommy does a lot of conventions, a staggering number of conventions, so he might squeeze in a ThunderCats game. But I also have it on good authority, by the time this comes out, I'm recording this, and then by the time this comes out, it'll be right after when this comes out. Within a couple of days, the guys over at Six Sides of Gaming are going to be running an actual play of a live actual play of ThunderCats. So very, very cool. And hopefully, I thought that when this was going to be out, when I recorded this, I thought that we were already going to have the crowdfunding up and running. That is not the case. It has not started yet, unless it starts by the time I get done recording this and and getting out to you guys. But the link to the preview landing page for the ThunderCats Roleplaying Game core book is in the description of this video. It should be starting very, very, very soon. And I look forward to it doing well. I'm going to obviously spread the word. And I would really appreciate it if you guys gave your support, or at least just shared it to your people, because the better this does, the more likely that we will get to do follow-up books, and maybe if I'm really lucky, eventually get like Silverhawks and maybe even a Tiger Sharks book. Who knows? All right, so let's go ahead and get into the table of contents. And kind of just give you a rough overview. I'm not going to go through everything. I might give you a couple of, like, this is the kind of cool stuff that's in there. But this is just a preview, and it's a way for me to explain to you how rad this book is, without giving away all the secrets. So the first section of the book, obviously there's the credits and the forwards written by Tommy, Devin, and myself. Explaining how rad this is. The first primary section of the book is the Feel the Magic, Hear the Roar section. Yeah, that's right. That gives you through the lore behind ThunderCats. Talks about how to use the book. Talks about what Third Earth means, what the ThunderCats are, the chronicles of the different stories behind the ThunderCats, Lion-O and his, the era of Jaga, the new Thundera, what you could be building your own stories out of. It kind of sets the tone. It talks about the different eras of the ThunderCats universe, because there's definitely particular moments in time and the show and the comics where the feel changes, where it stops going about a game. Like, there's parts where it goes about a game of survival, and then it goes to where resources are scarce, or they're being used to do something, or then there's new resources have been found but everybody's in danger, and then there's an era where almost like a utopian era of things. Obviously there's always going to be conflict, but where resources are no longer an issue. The timeline has moved forward enough where, like, all of the different species in the stories that get along, that sort of thing. It just basically gives you a general timeline of where in the ThunderCats chronology you end up wanting to put your game. Talks a little bit about the pantheon. So in ThunderCats there are gods, kinda, called the Ancient Spirits. And obviously Mum-Ra worships, is fully dedicated to the Ancient Spirits of Evil. His counterpart, Mum-Rana, is dedicated to the Ancient Spirits of Goodness. So there's definitely like a deification of sorts there. And they run the different gamut of what they could potentially represent. But it is explained in a way that talks about why they are not necessarily gods, but they are, like, deified. It's a very interesting interaction, and why as a pantheon of sorts, how they interact with humans, or not just humans, just mortal creatures, the denizens of Third Earth, and how how dedication to them almost changes you into that kind of stereotypical super villain or lawful stupid, that Dudley Do-Right, like where there's you need to have the push and pull of both influences, because if you're completely devoted, if you're completely consumed by the concepting of one, then it's like you're not a whole being. You're almost like a caricature of yourself, of that morality. I'm sorry, I'm starting to go deep. Devin really did an amazing job describing those, how the spirits function. So it's a really cool section of the book, in my opinion. We added a few extra conditions to D&D because there are some things that just don't describe quite right. And they are actually, a couple of those conditions are ones that I've used in other role-playing games as playtest things, like, momentary special conditions. And it's like, no, these actually make more sense to have as more broad concept in ones. And so we've made sure to add a couple of those. It helps describe the effects of some kind of unique effects that aren't just, a lot of times in D&D, a lot of unique effects are just, you get advantage, you get disadvantage, you take damage, or you don't. And we wanted to make sure that we added a little more nuance to those kinds of mechanics. So the empowered condition and the pacified condition are two of the new ones that we added. Empowered obviously makes you more efficient, more, it doesn't mean that you're like, super powered. It just means that you are better at doing what you already do. And pacified means that you are that you suffer on a general basis of, if you do too much, if you try to do too much, you will end up kind of hurting for it. It's the kind of thing where it's like, you want to take it easy, take it slow, everything's exhausting, that kind of thing. Then we get into the book moves into the character creation section, the player asset section, in my opinion. And this is where I did a lot of my work, was the subclass and class section. We introduced a new class called the Mechanist, or the Mechanist, if you are so inclined to say that. I say Mechanist, but I don't know what Tommy calls it. Yeah. But it's kind of like a more technologically or mechanically inclined artificer. So the artificer is very spell powered. It's very, I do a bunch of stuff, but it all does a spell. Does a spell. Does a spell. Well, we tried to create one that is more about the technology that you're creating, the items, the equipment, the constructs that you're making as your. There's a lot of tinkering in ThunderCats. There's a lot of people that make a thing and go, this thing's awesome, and maybe you only see it for an episode or two, but it is awesome for those episodes. And one of the things that Tommy was very specific on is, I want to make a class that is about these constructs, but these constructs need to be special and cool and important to the class, but not just a facsimile of another spellcaster. And so the Mechanist was born, and I really think that it turned out well. It's a pretty deep class when it comes to like rules interaction, so you do have to kind of make sure you know what you're doing as a Mechanist. But I think that it's one of the more flavorful interpretations of an engineering based class. And then we made sure that we added one subclass for all of the other the other D&D classes. And some of them I think are going to be a hoot. Others are just imposing and impressive. They're all awesome. Obviously, I'm not going to say, well, there's that one that I think kind of sucks. That's not the case. I love them all, but there are definitely a few that stand out on my personal play style. We have. I'm going to give you a list of them, and I'll tell you a couple. I'll give you like just a kind of a real quick, like one sentence description of how cool they are. The Barbarian Path of Collision. It is a barbarian path about running into stuff. It is. I mean, obviously, you're going to use your close combat attacks and all the regular barbarian things, but it is especially useful for people who want to charge quite literally headlong into their opponent. The College of Omens. So omens play a big part of, I mean, obviously Sword of Omens, like that, the Book of Omens, like there's a lot of omens in ThunderCats. Well, the College of Omens is a bard subclass that is focused on seeing signs importance and helping their allies do the same. That kind of that guy that hangs around you, that's like, oh man, don't open that door. Do you see around the edges? I've seen that kind of door before. It's very much about kind of sensing and seeing the strands of fate in the little things around you, and then helping your friends avoid the bad stuff. The cleric domain of the ancient spirits of evil and good. Now, originally we were talking about maybe having two separate domains, doing the ancient spirits of evil and the ancient spirits of good, but especially after Devin put together that amazing interpretation of the pantheon of morality, it makes more sense to have a cleric that is dedicated to basically being part of that balance. It doesn't mean true neutral. It doesn't mean I can't be good or evil. I have to stay in the middle. It just means that they understand that there is power in both, and that the spirits are always watching, and they can dedicate themselves, using like channel divinity and stuff, they can dedicate themselves to aspects of these different ancient spirits. And depending on where you've kind of set, imagine like it's like a toggle, like a switch. Am I set to good or am I set to evil? It doesn't mean that you're doing evil, and it doesn't mean that like, oh, I don't want my characters to be a bunch of bad guys. What it means is that your influence, what you are seeing the world with, you're seeing the world through the different tenets of those ancient spirits. So when you are dedicated to good, you are you are more protective, you are a better healer, you are more inclined to be the helper in the team, the glue that holds it together. Whereas if you're dedicated, if you're seeing the world through the lens of the ancient spirits of evil, that you are more combat driven, you are more personally, you're personally driven to do the things to win the day, to crush your enemies before they can strike back at you. And that's the leaning of that particular domain. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily good or evil, and it doesn't mean that you have to be neutral in the middle to do so. It just means that you understand the influence of both and recognize it in a deified form. The Druid Circle of the Croft, these are druids that are dedicated to the spirits of the unicorn. And the unicorns in ThunderCats, the unicorns of Third Earth, are a very special, like movie style, Last Unicorn style breed of magical beast. They have an entire forest dedicated to them. They represent the kind of the purity of nature, and they're big in Third Earth lore. And so this is a druid subclass that is devoted to a spiritual connection to that particular beast. And there's a lot of cool things they can do with the kind of energies of the unicorn. The fighter subclass of Operator, this is a guy who loves weapons and vehicles and loves to make them do stuff. Basically, whereas the Mechanist designs and creates cool things, the Operator knows how to get the most out of cool things, and occasionally make some of these cool things do things. I said things a lot. That they weren't expecting. That's not supposed to do that. The Operator knows how. Panthro, for example, would be an Operator, because while he is a big badass fighter, he's also the best tank driver. He knows how to tinker with all of the machinery around. So the Operator basically makes the most out of his equipment and makes equipment and vehicles do things that they may not have been designed to do. The monk subclass of the Warrior of the Claw. I think that kind of goes without saying. It is a warrior. It's a monk that is devoted to doing a lot of stuff with having claws on their hands and feet. To the point where even if you're not a species that has claws, like a tabaxi or a Thunderian, you learn very early on how to like sharpen and harden your finger and toenails to serve as claws in the ways of this monastic style. The subclass, or the paladin, the Oath of Destiny. I think this is probably one of Tommy's favorites. This is the concept of a paladin that is devoted to, that has basically discovered that they have greatness awaiting them at the end of their arc, and they are devoted to getting to it. There's a lot of kind of superhero moments cooked into the Oath of Destiny, and I think this is going to be a big hit amongst players who like to do the stand behind me, the let me show you how it's done, that the shining knight, the shining silver knight. I think that people are going to really get behind this. One of my favorites, the Ranger subclass of Evil Chaser. If you haven't watched ThunderCats, you don't know who I'm talking about. If you have, then you know Mandora, the Evil Chaser. It's basically a space cop, in ThunderCats anyway. And we made a Ranger class that is effectively like a bail bondsman. Whether you're an actual member of the ICF, the interplanetary, God, I can't remember what it's called. Capture force, incarceration. I don't remember, but it's basically a space cops. Whether you're one of those, or whether you're maybe just a member of the local bounty, maybe you're a bounty hunter. There's lots of ways to use the Evil Chaser, and in fact, you actually can alter it so it's not evil chasing. You could be a neutral chaser. You could be a lawful chaser. You could be a good chaser if you're maybe a bad guy, or if as a game master you want to make an NPC that's a good chaser, or maybe you're more like a Judge Dredd style chaotic chaser. There's ways for you to cook in different aspects of how to do their job, and it's all based off of basically seeking out, and instead of like how the hunter seeks out and goes after specific species, this basically goes after specific aligned beings. The rogue subclass of Heckler. I came up with this one and I love it. Obviously I'm partial. Basically, we've all had those characters in D&D or other role-playing games that they crack wise. They make fun. Spider-Man making fun of every opponent he ever fights, and the bardic cantrip of vicious mockery. How everyone says vicious mockery is. There's been entire decks of cards of third-party products of people making draw a card what your vicious mockery is. And it's all wisecracks. This is a subclass that is completely devoted to wisecracks and distracting your opponents with jokes, making fun of their failures. It is literally a rogue who is taking advantage of basically creating mental weak points in an opponent through making fun of them and mocking them and whatnot, and then taking advantage of that. I love it. The sorcerer subclass of Metamorphosis Sorcery. This is a sorceress path that basically is where you are slowly, or maybe not so slowly, kind of mummifying and embalming and changing your body, with infusing it with longevity and sort of borderline undead magic. It's not an evil path, because there's lots of throughout history there's lots of good immortals and mummies that aren't the mommy's rot, kind of thing. And the metamorphosis sorcerers are the ones that are kind of trying to achieve that everlasting life goal by infusing their body with sort of energy, necrotic energy. They're obviously, it's got potential to make amazing villains, but it is also it's a path that sorcerers can take that would let them sort of become the good guy lich that we have seen in a few things as of late. The warlock patron that we added is the patron of Mongor. So Mongor in ThunderCats is a godlike devil, demon, extra planar creature of fear, and it's obviously it's kind of a villainous aspect, but fear in and of itself as a concept isn't good or evil. It's necessary. It keeps us safe from harm. It keeps us from walking into the lion's den, into Lion-O's den. You never know what he's doing in there. There's things that fear, applications of fear that are not evil, but they're actually quite beneficial. And Mongor represents all of these things. Now, obviously, in a children's cartoon, that the god of fear is a scary thing, and it's more of a monster. And so the Mongor patron, the warlock pact that allows you to devote yourself to the embodiment of fear, is also a way for you to steel yourself against it, work through your fears, realize that you are scared and find power in it, instead of shying away from it, or coming to the realization that, yes, my body is scared and it's filling me with this adrenaline and magic in some cases, but I can use that and not just to run away. So that's kind of what that warlock path is about. It's basically finding the applications and ways to make fear work for you, sometimes even as a weapon. And then the last subclass is the wizard subclass of magician. And this is literally like the prestidigitation, the sleight of hand, now you see me, now you don't, that kind of magician. Now, it's mixed liberally with real magic, but you can do some very cool, look over here, look over here, look here, this happens over here. Some very, very cool stuff as a magician with the subclass, because it's fully vested in... I'm looking forward to someone diving in and making the top hat, let me pull a rabbit out of my hat style, short cape and cane magician character, and just really leaning into all of the sort of illusions and tricks this thing can do, because I think that'll be great. Let's see. After the subclasses, we added some new backgrounds that were a little more kind of Thunderian in base, in concept. We added one that was your most important aspect of your history is you crashed. You were either maybe a boat at sea or a boat in space or whatever the case may be. You were traveling from point A to point B and you never made it there. You ended up here, and that's how you ended up in your life of adventure. Then we've got the species. Now this was definitely probably one of the things that I fell in love with, were the different kinds of like creatures that they could have in ThunderCats. So I made sure to add as many of these that I could as playable species. So that you can be Thunderians, which are split up into different types of cats. You can be a Snarf, which have their own kind of plucky awesomeness. You can be a Robert Burble. You can be, if you don't know what that is, it's a cybernetic anthropomorphic bear that's about 3 feet tall. You can be a snowfolk, which is kind of like a yeti. You can be a Tuska, anthropomorphic walrus men. You can be any of the various versions of the mutants, avians, canines, primates, reptilians, and rodents. Now, we included those rules because everybody always wants to try and make the Drizzt of the Drow, that one member of the species that bucks against the system and is heroic despite his upbringing. That's kind of why we wanted to include the mutants. Not only because it lets us have a real good base for creating very deep NPCs, but it lets players have a good base to create cool interactions with the existing mutants of Plundar. Like just cool things. We added a ton of new feats, ranging from cat-like reflexes to a rallying roar, to Voice of the Arietta bird, which is a magical bird that sings a charming song. We added a bunch of new spells, made rules for Sight Beyond Sight, the gravity beam that one of the Lunatics uses on people. There's a spell called Snarf's Intuition, but just a lot of really cool stuff there. Then we break into the Third Earth and Beyond section of the book, which is less about the sandbox of Third Earth. I mean, there's a ton about the sandbox of Third Earth, like the different locations and geographies and points of interest, and lots of places for you to set your adventures or maybe base a character out of there or something along those lines. But also other planets. We made sure to include New Thundera, other dimensions that exist. There's just lots of geography and real estate and scenery to chew on in this vast world. And this chapter Devin did an amazing job on this chapter, because all of these places, they all have an adventure hook. So you as a game master can go, okay, I want to go to the Gray Penal planet, the planet that Mandora takes all the evils that she has chased, and let's have a game start there. Here's an adventure hook to make that happen. Let's do an adventure hook that is based off of the planet Plundar. It's not supposed to be a very nice place. Well, here's how. So again, it's a very, very deep section of the book that gives you so much information to be able to build your own adventures, or even just kind of build a narrative for a character or an NPC. Then we get into the chapter on equipment and vehicles. So one of the things that we wanted to do very early on is create a reason why a ThunderCats game is different than a D&D game, and not just because it's cool. And one of those things is the concept of resource management. And there's a lot of technology in ThunderCats. There's a lot of vehicles, there's a lot of laser guns, there's spaceships, which does set it apart from regular D&D. And one of the things that we really leaned in on is the concept of charges. Kind of like how wands have charges, or magic items might have charges, is things like vehicles and equipment have charges as well. Now, their charges are not likely to come from, I am a mage, so I generate charges, or, this weapon just generates 3 charges a day. It's going to require things like Thundrillium fuel, power cells. There are definitely the things that operators and mechanists can do to add charges. There's gonna be this concept of resource management with some of the more powerful pieces of equipment. But what that does is it means that you don't have to wait until you're level 12 or 15 before you get this really badass vehicle. You might get a cool vehicle early on, or have access to a really cool vehicle at low levels, but maybe you just don't have much Thundrillium, so you can't do a lot with it. You can't access some of its big mega power weapons, or you can only travel with it for a couple of weeks, or you can only get into one combat with it before its charges are out, and then now the rest of the adventure is we got to try and find stuff to put juice in the tank to get it home. So it became a system within the system for us to fuel things with these charges. And in fact, I came up with an entire vehicle system on how to design and build your own vehicles with different components and different like special abilities and actions that they can take as a vehicle that cost charges, and X number of charges later at the end of the end of the combat, the tank goes, all right guys, guess we're walking, like, so it is I think it is going to be a very interesting subsystem for people to get into, but also because it is just vehicles, you don't have to use it. You could have an entire D&D game where no one ever gets onto their horses or no one ever gets onto a cart. So the same thing can work with a ThunderCats game. If you don't feel comfortable with the vehicles, if you don't want to give them a tank, if you don't want to give them a sky cutter that can fly across the gorge, then don't. And you just play like a regular D&D game. It is not necessary. It's just a really cool thing that we made sure to add because it is such a big part of the ThunderCats universe. Then after the equipment and vehicle section, we get into friends and foes, which gives you stats on all of the main players in ThunderCats. Now they are written up as NPCs, so they've got kind of like monster style stat blocks because generally speaking, we wanted to make sure that they had enough wiggle room to them that as a game master, if you wanted to run Wily Kit and Wily Cat as allies, you didn't have to have every single thing that level 7 Wily Kit and level 6 Wily Cat that all of them would have. You just need kind of the main things that they do, because the stars of the show should be, no pun intended, should be the player characters. But the write-ups are interesting and unique enough to cover the things that they can do in the show and the comics, that if you wanted to, you could absolutely have someone stand in just using that sheet to play as that NPC, as that main character. But then we also get into the other allies and enemies, which is we really did a lot of stat blocks here. From Captain Shiner to Brodo to Driller to Groon the Destroyer, Robert Bill. We even did some of the weird ones like the Shadow Master and his Shadow Beasts. We wanted to make sure that there was enough there that you could create your own adventures or try and recreate episodes of the show or issues of the comics adequately and understand roughly where we feel their power level should be. But then we also included creatures of Third Earth, so that way there were some, you didn't just throw goblins at your ThunderCats. Like you have them fight fire bats and mole folk. Give them a reason to fight the Tongosaurus. There's a lot here, and there's definitely room for us to expand because there's so much in the ThunderCats universe. We couldn't fit it all in these pages, so we have room to add more in the future should the Kickstarter and stuff go well, or when we write some adventures, include them as special stuff in those adventures. That's the goal. That's the hope. Including, speaking of adventures, Devin went ahead and added a sample ThunderCats adventure in the back of this book. So just getting this book, you have an adventure as soon as you have the book in hand. You get characters made, and you're good to go. So that's the ThunderCats role-playing game in a nutshell. Again, I know I definitely went way long-winded on this because I'm so excited about this project, and I really hope that it does well in crowdfunding. I hope that it makes the ThunderCats fans proud. I hope it makes the D&D fans happy, and that I get to start hearing through the grapevine, through other people, about their ThunderCats games that they're running, or when I run my special event at GaryCon, that it sells out like super quick because people are super excited to get into ThunderCats, because it's a really cool for being based on a kid's cartoon and comic. It is a really cool universe, and even for people if they just want to use some of these assets in their own D&D games, I think Third Earth could be a really cool place to accidentally drop a D&D game into. Suddenly they find themselves on this planet of Earth far, 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 far in the future, and surrounded by mutants and snowfolk and the like. And they get to meet Snarf. Because, Snarf. So, if all you wanted to do was hear about the ThunderCats, that segment of that is now done. I'm going to do the Week in Bryan now, so please stick around if you can. I would appreciate it. But no matter what, go to the link in the description of the video. Go to the ThunderCats Kickstarter landing page. Get on that mailer, so that way they'll let you know when it's ready to go. And please support the Kickstarter, and definitely just have a good time and enjoy the ride, because it's going to be awesome. All right, now that we got that done, the Week in Bryan. It's going to be quick because there hasn't been a lot going on. It was Thanksgiving last weekend, which means I had a lot in my personal life. I had a lot going on. I did a lot of cooking. My sink exploded. My garbage disposal died. But my house warranty took care of both those things really, really quickly and for cheap, which was awesome. My oldest dog, Bruce, had to have an emergency vet visit because, not to get into grossness, he had a thing rupture, and it was very nasty, and but he's doing fine. He's not in any pain. He's on some antibiotics, and he's wearing a t-shirt, which is funny because he looks like a werewolf. He's a big woolly dog wearing one of our t-shirts and tied in the back to keep him from messing with the wound while it's healing. But Thanksgiving went well. I'm doing well. Still going to the gym, doing good. My back feels way better. This morning was a little rough, but I think that was mostly because I spent way too much time in the chair yesterday. I needed to get up and move around more. But it's my sciatica hasn't hurt for a couple of days. I even took a bit of a kind of a spin slip on the ice outside, and there was a momentary kind of twinge of, but it didn't last, so that's cool. Hobby-wise, I primed some stuff, but I haven't painted anything else lately. I need to. I've only got a couple months now to get some major stuff painting done. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Gaming, played a bunch of Helldivers, and that's about it. A lot of Helldivers, little bit of playtest. Warzone. Sorry, my brain is pudding. A little bit of Warzone. I got a couple games in with some playtest stuff. One of which I've got some wording to clean up in the final version of some stat cards. Not because it's broken, but because it doesn't interact with a thing that I wanted to make sure that it interacted with. It doesn't do what I wanted it to do, so I got to change the wording to make it fit right. But such is life. And then work-wise, work is great. Work is great. Stuff with Intergalactic Heroes is proceeding as expected. I'm still doing a free RPG Day adventure for Evil Genius. Just got done with a very... Well, not done with my part, but I might end up having to do more with a very cool project that involves a couple of different companies coming together on something. I cannot talk about what it is, but it is very rad, and when I can talk about it, I look forward to, because I think that it's going to be big for me. It's going to be big for the companies involved, and I actually think it's going to be just a lot of fun, and that's what that's what I'm big about. Is big about fun. I have gotten back to putting good words into the Shadowrun novel, which I'm getting ready to enter a section of the book that is going to be so much fun for me because it has to do with one of my personal characters. So I get to live out a little dream in a canonized book. And I just talked to my pitch for the season 2 Wardens of the East Marches organized play system. My pitch for my adventure, my follow-up adventure. People seem to be really excited about it, so I can't wait to get words down on that one too. Yeah, no, so things are good. Things are good. Just I mean, it's steady. Sounds like come January, I'm probably going to start doing some more stuff with Xeogenesis a little bit deeper again. Yeah, I mean, I never stop moving. Never stop, never stopping. But I'm not feeling super overworked. Everything seems to be manageable. Everything seems to be going well. And I think that it's a good time in the Bryan career. Like, it's a good spot for me right now. And I hope that keeps going. Especially with the upcoming ThunderCats. I think that will, if that does well, I will feel over Third Earth's moon. That was dumb, but you get it. You understand. Now, before we go, because I do need to get going. I do have to. It is the first episode in December, which means we get to announce the comment raffle winner of November, which I plugged in the Randominator, and it is from episode 301. At some random human 4145, you commented, your name got added into the Randominator, and boop, 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 and it spat it on out, which means when this episode goes live, I will comment on your comment to tell you to email me and let me know what your shipping address is, and we will put together a fun little package of studio weirdness and stuff from sponsors and friends of the channel and whatnot, so we can get that out to you post-haste, and you can celebrate by telling all your friends to subscribe and comment and have their chance to win cool things like that. So, congratulations at some random human 4145 for winning the November comment raffle. Bow, bow, bow. Very glad that you are watching, subscribing, and commenting. Thank you again to anybody who sends anything, donations or items or anything to the various addresses to help the channel in the description of the video. And yeah, it's weird doing the Week in Bryan at the end. I'm not used to it, but you know me. I can like to change things up now and again, kind of. So until next time, please be safe. Wash your hands, get your shots, stay warm if you're in a cold place, wear a mask if you feel like you have to. New bugs are going around all the time. Just try and be a good person and leave every room a little happier than when you got there, and I think that everything will be okay. So until next week, stay safe, have fun, and play some games, because you know I'm gonna. Bye, guys.